What's up guys, it's Pliskin here, and happy Valentine's Day. I love you guys. Fun fact, if you're watching this on February 14th, 2023, you are my Valentine. And seeing as though YouTube says all of my subscribers are men, that means today, you and I are gay. Anyways, if there's anything I find more enticing than a good game, it's what that game could have been. So today we are looking at some of my favorite bits of Cut Bioshock 2 content. Originally, the devs toyed with the idea of a new city. While there were a bunch of concepts for what could have been, my favorite was a cut Venetian concept that would have been a city floating on the surface with jester-like spider splicers. Besides Assassin's Creed 2, I don't know a lot of games that utilize this setting well, and this could have been really cool. A draft in which you play as a grown little sister returning to Rapture and discovering the horrors that happened to her, in the same vein as Silent Hill 2, where you have all these flashbacks and big reveals towards the end, was originally considered. If we take a look at earlier drafts of certain enemies like the alpha-type Big Daddy and the horrific exposed mouths and deformed arms, the Silent Hill motifs are very clear to see here. You might be thinking, why didn't this happen? Well, 2K decided they wanted Bioshock to be an FPS first, like Call of Duty or Gears of War. This is yet another tragic example of these shitty franchises killing off potential for unique games through the over-standardization of the industry. Seriously, once I heard that there could have been a Silent Hill and Rapture, I just hate these franchises even more now. Originally, there was meant to be only one big sister, who would pursue you Nemesis style throughout all the levels. This big sister would be revealed as Eleanor by the end of the game. While I think this would have been a brilliant twist, having the person you're supposed to save be a brainwashed slave fighting you, and definitely would have tied into the whole different various consciousness from different various people being inside of Eleanor and her being conflicted with all that, it would have really grounded that in a way that we could see and feel. However, the devs thought that this twist would be too predictable, so we got the multiple big sisters and then the allied Eleanor towards the end of the game in the final game. So originally, the Rapture ecosystem was meant to have much more depth. Delta was supposed to be able to discover settlements of non-splice survivors and trade with them through the Pneumo systems. Unique merchants would communicate through these screens that had these customized icons for each different person, and they would give you different side quests, offer to trade certain items, offer up certain unique helpful items for doing something for them. It was supposed to include kind of this cooperative style of gameplay, adding something else to do besides loot and kill things. This whole barter system definitely would have fit in with the theme of decay, as it shows that the city can't rely on vending machines like it used to. Metal Gear Solid 2 and Halo Infinite both bring pain to me for having cut tons of cool underwater elements. Bioshock 2 can join that list, as not only did we miss out on big sister battles outside of the city, but we also missed out on aqua splicers that were amphibious enemies that could morph to suit dry and wet environments, making them a threat even if the section you were currently in got completely flooded. A special Big Daddy type known as the Demo or Egg variant that would have been patrolling the depths as former defenders of Rapture that would have fended off submarines from the city would also be something to fight against. A unique Big Daddy variant built for underwater combat. That sounds cool as shit. And again, these amphibious splicers definitely bring me back to that Silent Hill build. Damn, if there was any game that would have benefited from underwater combat, it would have been Bioshock 2. You know the pediatric wing towards the end of Inner Persephone? That was originally supposed to be a therapy wing for what was called the Little Brothers. The Little Brothers were a failed experiment that ended up being way too aggressive to properly act as gatherers. It's unclear whether or not these misfortunate kids would have been allies or scary type enemies. I could totally see you having the option to rescue these kids or having them become much more older as time has gone by. Maybe they're in their teenage years like the big sisters, and maybe they've gotten even more aggressive, and maybe they've deformed. Imagine going into a dark pediatric wing and having these things hunt you down. There's a lot that could have been done with the Little Brothers, and I think that was a concept definitely worth exploring. One, because of what it could have done for the gameplay, and two, for what it could have done for the lore. If you had told me that Sophia Lamb could have been anything besides a cunt, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have said, you're wrong, and you know what? I'm right. Because even in a discarded draft in which Sophia Lamb is actually communicating with you and helping you get Eleanor out of Rapture, ends with her betraying you. You see, originally Sophia Lamb was supposed to take the role of Sinclair, guiding you through the levels, giving you helpful advice, so on and so forth. However, when you rescued her daughter, she would then kill you much in the same way as she does towards the beginning of the game. So, even in the draft where Sophia Lamb tries to help you out, she still turns out to be a villain. And I think that is so fitting for this character that I hate so much. Not to say she's a bad character, but she's just a really good villain and gets the reaction you want your audience to have when they confront a villain. While the final game starts off with a cutscene that takes place before the fall of Rapture, originally you were supposed to have a playable section in which you guide Eleanor around right as the Civil War starts. When the Civil War starts, you'll have to fight through it, protecting her. You'd probably have a couple Gatherer tutorials, some basic weapon and plasma tutorials, and it would end off much in the same way that this cutscene ends off, with you having to fight off Lamb and losing. But yeah, there was an entire level here that just kind of got scrapped. Now, there was a scrapped drug called Eden, which was a spin-off of Adam that would cause hallucinations. And there was a lot they were planning to do with this. In the vein of Resident Evil 4, they were thinking of adding in some puppet-type enemies that would only appear during these hallucinations. You'd see the ghosts of Rapture before it fell, and there was supposed to be a giant Sander Cohen bunny monster that would show up in these weird kind of rabbit masks and so on and so forth. I can't help but think about the Silent Hill draft once again, and the role that these hallucinations could have had in it to make it much more scarier, especially if you have Sander Cohen coming in as this giant monster. Maybe he would have been a pursuer type enemy. But yeah, there was a lot of potential with this, but this time around I kind of understand why it was scrapped, because there's just so much you can do with this, and it would probably take too much resources and time from the core game that you're making. So those were some of the scraps of cut content. There's so much more. If you're interested, let me know. I just wanted to do this since the original Bioshock and Bioshock Infinite get this kind of attention all the time for their cut content. But Bioshock 2, like always, is left in the dust, and honestly, if there is a game that deserves our attention more than Infinite and the original, it's Bioshock 2. Look, in the age of remakes, I just want to say if anybody's going to go back to this game and add in all these things that were cut out, making this game better than it ever could have been, with its almost spin-off treatment during its development.
When the time comes, I'll come.
This is Solid Snake. Hey, subscribe to Pliskin Boy. God damn it.
You heard him.